We're going to do something a little bit different tonight. We're going to work on something that wasn't what I was working on this morning or yesterday evening. But yet it is still here on the tabletop. And that is my Panzer gray vehicles that I have here. So we have a mixture of a couple different manufacturers, but really only a couple different kind of vehicles. We have some Czech 38s, or Panzer 38Ts as they're sometimes known. Got two more of them over here. And a couple of KFZ 13. Oh my goodness. That these guys, oh, that's on, wait a second. Okay. Now you can see the difference here. All right, I see what it is. So there's a couple of these that I had done earlier. And actually this might be a good comparison if I can get the colors to behave properly, which always is a challenge because there's some colors that are just a little bit more difficult to deal with than others. To show up on, the screen. Let me get these half tracks the hell out of here. How about that? Let's pack up this Dunkelgelb distraction. Get these guys out of here. They'll be back soon enough, but let's clear the table. Let's get these guys out of the way. And him. All right, we got all the Dunkelgelb stuff gone. Be gone, Dunkelgelb. All right. All right, so what we have here is some Panzer gray vehicles. And let me make sure that this is, let's go ahead and put this up so I can see the text a little bit better than on the screen. And then I'll flip the view around a little bit. So you're not seeing me as a left-handed person. I am definitely not left-handed. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm not going to be the poster child for left-handedness. I don't have a clue. And then we'll talk about this Panzer Gray here a little bit. So all of these vehicles came similar to this. Not exactly this color. This is a plastic model kit that's not quite finished. This is a first to fight Czech 38 command version. What did I just fumble and break? All right. I swear every time I put on glasses, I'm like Mole Man. What did we just break? A machine gun. Great. All right. Well, we'll glue it back on. Yeah, I couldn't see it well, so I was grabbing it somewhere I wasn't supposed to. That's why you guys watch this show anyways. It's never know what kind of things that aren't supposed to happen. All right, let's go here to live chat. All right, perfect. All right, so they come anyways about this color. And then these have all been primered in black. And then we sprayed Panzer Gray on them. The Panzer Gray, and then we did a lighter shade of Panzer Gray, and then we gave them a brown wash. And this is what they look like when we're done with that. The next step is going to be, we're going to dry brush some Panzer Gray on top of it and add a little bit of Luftwaffe blue. I don't know if you can tell the difference here in the colors, but there's a little bit of it. Like I said, it's hard to tell here in the light, but there's a little bit of a blue hint to it. And when I was doing modeling a long time ago, German tanks didn't go and add like a blue filter or anything like that. It was just Panzer Gray and that was it. But we're going to add a blue. We're going to make these darker colored vehicles, make them look a little bit bluer. Okay. And that just happens from fading. I actually like how it looks. And then we end up dry brushing from this point on. So they're not any more blue than this. And these are 3D prints by my friend Jose. He gave those to me. This is actually one of the turrets that he had, and there's some of them had broken barrels, so I just replaced them with some of the Plastic Soldier Company extra ones that I had. I got a message and it's already held for review. Don't be misbehaving. Well, this is not that kind of channel. That's pretty funny, but it didn't happen. But we don't need that on the channel. What's up, Justinian? I shouldn't call you Justinian. Justinian was an asshole. He really screwed Belisarius badly. Look it up. So we're gonna grab Panzer Gray, and which, if you use Vallejo colors, they call it German Gray. Bass Fisher, what's happening, man? I'm going to put a little bit of this Panzer Gray on it. I'm going to dry brush, and we're going to dry brush this core color back on the tank. And on the 2 armored cars as well. I had a really challenging day at work today, so I'm glad that's over with. And so I said, oh, it's Friday tomorrow. At the end of tomorrow is Friday. At the beginning of Friday, at the beginning of tomorrow is not Friday. I said, TGIF was created by some bastard that worked 410s. And he had Fridays off. So we're just going to go over covering, adding a little bit more of this, of the core paint color back on it. Don't have to get everywhere. It was completely covered in Panzer Gray. And if we get inside this vehicle, fine. If we don't, that's okay too. Because we did spray Panzer Gray in there. And this little armored car, all it's got is a machine gun on it. It's a 2-man crew. It's like basically a staff car it has a 360-degree machine gun. That's actually pretty cool. But it's a 2-man crew. Viking stuff. Who? Bass Fisher or me? I have no Viking stuff. I don't have anything against the Vikings, just don't have any stuff. You mean as opposed to like the Green Bay Packers? The only Viking stuff that I had way back when, way back when, we had a Sega Genesis League of, I forget what game it was, a long time ago, and I had the Vikings in that. Hey, I like purple and yellow. That's it. And this isn't going to be very noticeable at all, what I'm doing here. Actually, you know what? Let's just do the 2 armored cars and we can come back on the tanks. We already did some of the tanks. But lots of English people, I always ask them, I said, why is everybody like really positive about the Vikings? And everybody hates the Normans, like they're English. That's not everybody, but as a general rule, it's like people don't like the Normans. It's like the Vikings and the Saxons invaded, and they treat them okay. And they're, they did horrible stuff too, but they always hate the Normans. See, I always was interested in whatever civilization had the coolest uniforms or armor or whatever. So, and people will say, well, those Normans had those ridiculous haircuts. I said, yeah, well, the Anglo-Saxons had those ridiculous mustaches. Okay. I never got around to doing a Viking army. Actually, never got around to doing a Norman army either. We're going to add a little bit of this Luftwaffe blue to it. The stupid environmental cough is back. The pollen cough. And I know a couple days ago, I was on here and I was sniffling all the time. And I wasn't sick because it like went away. It lasted one day. Like it literally went away. So it was definitely environmental. Because I was really sick. That stuff doesn't last one day. I'm not too worried about getting to the inside of that. And this doesn't seem like I'm doing anything, but it is subtle and it does make a difference. Especially when we go to the next step, which is going to be lighten this up a little bit more. You had bad allergies for 2 weeks. I think everybody had it, you know? And it's funny because what I was talking about, like I had front drip and I never have front drip. You know, if I ever get like something sinus, it always ends up what I call pepper throat. That basically means it's dripping out the back and it makes you feel thirsty. Like you got like a scratchy throat, like you got pepper in your throat, pepper throat. And that's usually how it is, but not this time. Now we're just going to do straight Luftwaffe uniform. And they only use these up through the invasion of France. And then they got used for, rear duty. Like they probably got used for anti-partisan duties and things like that. They never made it to Russia. Supposedly they never made it to Russia. Wouldn't be that useful. It's basically like 13 millimeters of armor and a single barreled machine gun. Although it is pretty cool, it has a 360-degree turn, but you don't have an assistant or nothing. You got a driver and you got one guy on the gun. So there's no commander, there's nobody that helps reload that guy. He's a one-man fire team. But he does have some protection instead of just being out in the open, so it doesn't have a lot of armor, but it has enough that, it's better than not being in something. And it's called a KFZ-13. Sometimes I think it's called an Adler as well, which I think is eagle. I think that's what it means. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take this color called Dark Sand, and we're going to add it. Do you mix your own paint to get the German blue? I do. Well, I mean, to get the tone that I want, I do. I didn't used to. And then I see people, I was like, oh, I kind of like that little bit of a tint. Well, I'm mixing my own paint to get the right Dunkelgelb, too. Because even if I use, like, the color they suggest doing it, I need to show that it's faded or that it's changed, not like it's, like, coming out of the showroom. So I got to do something to it. So we're going to mix a little bit of dark sand with it. That's going to lighten it up. But it's going to be a soft lightening up, not, like using white. So we use Panzer gray overall. Then we mixed a little bit of this Luftwaffe, German Luftwaffe blue in it. Then straight Luftwaffe blue, which we already did. And then we're going to add a little bit of dark sand to this. And then we're just dry brushing. So this entire surface doesn't look like it's uniform in color. And that's what makes it look really fake, And you can see, you see a real vehicle at a museum or whatever, and it looks fake. It's all painted. It's painted the right color. I know, but it hasn't been faded. Like some people call that modulation. I call it just, it looks different. It gives you some eye candy. And we're going to hand paint the crosses on here as well. It's got a spare tire on the back that's in a tarped wheel, so to speak. And I just pulled this out of nowhere. I'm like, okay, what colors do I have that has a little bit of blue? You know, that's still a gray. I'm like, oh, Luftwaffe uniform. I don't use that for anything. A couple of companies actually make a filter, so another wash that's a little bit of a blue wash. But, you know, the wash I have is like brown, you know, so it looks, you know, like it's been dirtied a little bit. So I put the blue on there. It ends up like covering over the brownness of it. And then what we'll do is we're going to grab a brush that is not so dominant, a submissive brush. Easy there. And add more of this dark sand. Get it almost all off, which just makes it look like, you know, the same color, but just lighter. And we're going to hit the edges here. Anything that looks like it'd be worn or anything to make all these little details on here pop. All right, we're going to do the same thing with the other one. All these German vehicles have all these angles that you want to be able to see them. You want them to catch your eye so that it's not wasted. Probably the best example I can think of is a Panzer II turret. You think, oh, the Panzer II turret is just flat. No, it's not. It's got little changes of angles, and you know, it's a shame not to have people be able to see that kind of stuff. Okay, so here we have our two KFZ-13s. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to paint the machine guns black and the tires black. Cute little things. Okay, let's get some craft paint black. I go through a fair amount of black and white, so I'd rather use craft paint for those. And the advantage of craft paint is it has less pigment, more filler, and the filler is very opaque. I mean, not opaque; it's very flat. So the nice thing about that is you get a better idea of what it's going to look like without having to wait until things start looking good when you have the clear coat on it. You know, the flat coat. All right, so we're going to paint the whole machine gun. Well, we're not going to paint the gun shield. These are the super readers? They are, okay. Pretty handy to have a 360 field of view. Not too many people, not too many vehicles have that. And you're protected in there. You're just as protected from every angle firing this thing. We'll do the MGs first, and then we'll do the tires. Let's get one that's a little bit more precise than this one. There we go. I'm gonna need a little bit more black than that. And I'm really digging the hand painting the crosses. And all the other markings too. I'm really digging that. I'm saving a lot of time not trying to look for the right one. Like, I need it to be this size, and going through all your decals multiple times. Just paint what you need. Actually, you take a look at these tires and make sure that I'm painting the rim in the right place. KFZ13. Okay, yeah, show me images. It's a tiny little rim. It's really small. Yeah, let's see if it can show you a picture of what I mean by blue. This is a reenactor's vehicle. Let me flip this around. It's easier to control it that way. Yeah, see how it's got a little bit of a blue tint? Even something like this one right here. They have a little bit of a hint of blue. Uh-oh, what happened here? Oh, just got unplugged. Well, the paint mix is, grab any Panzer gray you like. A pre-made Panzer gray. They're all about the same. I happen to use German gray. I actually don't spray in this because I use the ammo MIG. But the ammo MIG doesn't dry brush worth a shit. It's too wet. But it's basically the same color as this one. So take your Panzer gray, which in Vallejo it's $9.95. German gray is what it's called. And the other one is 816 German World War II Luftwaffe blue. This is an old bottle. It might be called something slightly different now, but it's got a little bit of a blue tint. It's definitely a blue gray. It's more gray than it is blue, but it definitely has a blue hint to it. And I just start with this, then mix it about 50-50, then do this straight, and then lighten this up with the sand color. A little bit. You don't need a whole lot of that. I actually got that tip from somebody else. I would have not thought to do that. It would be my inclination to have used white, and then it wouldn't look as good. It would have looked like it'd be more faded. This is the color, dark sand. So if I was doing a green vehicle, a Soviet vehicle, same thing, except I wouldn't have a blue thing. This one's special to the Panzer Gray. It's just giving it a little blue color, but it's very, 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 very lightly dry brushed over it. And I happen to like how it looks. It may not be anybody else's cup of tea, but that's okay. But in the early 90s, when I was using Tamiya paint, doing 1/35th scale models, you just used the Panzer Gray and moved on. There wasn't nobody was adding a wash to it or anything, or a filter. At that time, pastels were the rage. Those pastels you get in an art store, they look like a little piece of chalk, and you take a piece of sandpaper and you run over it. You create this powder, and then you would take this powder and you would apply it with a brush in different places you wanted the powder to be, and then the trick, of course, was to seal it lightly enough that it doesn't turn into like a paste. That was all the rage in the early 90s. Verlinden and stuff were doing all that stuff. Back then, if you want to know how to do something, you had to buy a book that told you how to paint things in Panzer Gray. It wasn't like, let me go on a bulletin board. Like, bulletin boards didn't exist. Everybody was trying to learn how to paint things either by books or to vacuum or experimenting. You paint any Panzer Gray stuff? You ever build a German armored train? Oh no. I did have. My dad was into trains a lot, and I always thought it'd be pretty cool to do an HO scale train. People usually do it like it's usually the 50s or the 60s in America. Somewhere in America, they'll either find an actual railroad or they'll make up a fake railroad. But they'll, in their railroad set, they'll do something, whether it's a railroad that they saw as a kid or somebody in their family worked on it. Like, I'm going to do the Burlington Northern going through Vermont in 1963 or whatever. That's how I did it. I always thought, one thing that would be pretty cool would be to do a German railway, because they make German engines from like World War II in Germany. You could have like carloads of Panther tanks and stuff like that. But, can't do everything. If I'm doing that, I'm not doing this. So, you ever seen that train layout that's done by, what's his face? Rod Stewart? Look it up. Look at Rod Stewart's train layout. It's freaking amazing. He supposedly said that he did it all, other than like the wiring of like the electrical stuff. Like all the painting and stuff like that, he did himself. If he did that, he's a better painter than he is a musician. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with him being a musician. I'm just saying It's really freaking well done. It's impressive. It's been featured in Model Railroader several times. Actually, I'm not sure where it is because I thought he resided in the United States there for a while. I had a friend of mine that it's really cool. You definitely, you know. So the problem with the railroads, and my dad was really into the railroad stuff. It's like I don't have time to do that in this. Now I did see an article in Model Railroader or something like that many years ago, and these guys had devised this game of how to play with their model railroader. You know, they had it all set up. They had a every piece of rolling stock and every engine, I would imagine as well, but every piece of rolling stock, you know, meaning a car, box car, tanker, whatever, had like a 3x5 card, had an informational sheet. And what you would do is there'd be pieces of random stock, you know, and you know everything is compressed, right? So if you have a layout that you know maybe starts here, and a lot of them are this width, so you could reach across of them, and then maybe it'll go you know all around the room or whatever. There'll be like a little peninsula or whatever, and this might you know represent some town that's called you know Rockville, and then further along you know towards the corner there's a little whistle stop that's called you know. Yeehaw Junction or something like that. And then there'd be like this other city called Dartmouth. And then there'd be another one called, you know, Willard or something like that. So there'd be all these like cities, you know, in, you know, places to stop. And they would have like little yards and things like that. They'd have like spurs where maybe there was like a factory at one and maybe a coaling station in another. So you'd have all these pieces of rolling stock that would be in random places at these different yards. And they would play this game, and basically how it worked is they would shuffle these cards together and they would say, okay, these cars, you know, they'll pull six or whatever it is they are. You're going to play this engine that starts in this town, and you need to take all these pieces of rolling stock and move them to another town. So it was like a game, like that's what they had to do. And there's, you know, decouplers and things like that. And a decoupler is an area that underneath the track that has a magnet on it. And when if you drive really slow over the magnet, the coupler will actually open. And then you can, you know, move it out of the way and push it, that kind of stuff. You have to do all that without using your hands. You know, without going, okay, put this over here. And it was kind of cool. So you're kind of like playing a game and not just like, well, this is cool, I built it, now what? You know? So, but there's not time to do this and, you know, and war game as well. But my dad was really into the railroad stuff, you know, not to that level. He was always saying he wanted to have time to play with his trains and never really got much of a chance to. But yeah, Rod Stewart's layout's pretty freaking amazing. And if it's true, that's pretty awesome. But there's a lot of crossover and, you know, things you can use from one thing to the other. The only thing is, you know, if you war game, you actually get to like move stuff around and like play with it and like roll dice and blow each other up and, you know, learn history. I guess you could learn history, other stuff too, you know, railroad and stuff like that, but the scale that's the closest to 1/72nd, I want to say is a scale called S, and it's very rare. So usually, you know, if you're doing 1/72, it's too big for HO scale, and HO vehicles are too small. I don't know why they settled on 1/87th. There's one of those things you've seen that program. Well, I haven't seen the program, but I've heard of it. You know, how the states got their shapes. I haven't seen it. I've heard it's a pretty good program, but what am I going to watch that? How the states got their shapes? Why did they settle on certain scales? Like, you know, you do micro armor. Like, I understand, like, these tanks are 1/300 scale. Cool. Why did GHQ settle on 1/285th? It's just like, that's like a weird number. Like, do 1/200 or 1/250 or 1/300, but why 1/285th? Oh, hold on 1 second. You got what you needed? Okay. Careful, you might be in the camera. I'll get extra views. Love you. I'm muted right now. Oh, now the sound is back off. Okay, now it's getting all weird and shit. Anyhow, I wasn't saying anything important, just typical babbling. All right. Oh, the paper towels got stolen. Now I'll be right back. All right, let's flip this back around. All right. Yeah, I've got this paper towel holder, but it's almost like the reserve for the kitchen. So when the kitchen runs out, it's like, hey, I took your paper towels. I'm like, I don't use them that much. I don't use them that much. Great. Now we got this little fan going. Now it's blowing this. This place blows. All right. So we got that painted. Got to wait for these to dry a little bit, and then we can do a little bit of weathering on this. Meanwhile, we got to figure out what kind of crosses that we're going to do on this. So I actually came across a couple of illustrations. I want them to be different. So one of these is going to have the cross on the back door. I think it's got a back door. It looks like it's got a back door, or it's really the door that's here. The door is this panel right here. and the other one has it up at the front. So I'm actually going to go to, that's going to be one of them. I'm actually going to go to ScaleMates, and there's a company called RPM, I believe. ScaleMates, and I think I should be able, if I know what I'm doing, I should just be able to ScaleMates KFZ 13 RPM. It should take me right to where it is. ScaleMates armored car. This one right here. And it should have download the instructions. Okay, and here they have the instructions of the. All right, let's move this out of the way. Here we have the instructions on ScaleMates. And we're going to do one like this one, and we're going to do one like this one. Okay, so one's going to have the cross on this front panel, and the one is going to have the cross on the back panel. They're both going to have little license plates on the front, and they're both going to have the license plate here on the back. And we're going to just pretend there's a number on there. We'll make it nice and obfuscated. And are we going to make them both with black in the center, or one of them with gray in the center? Let's see. I don't remember if they use the gray. It's kind of hard to tell from that. Let's see if we can find one. Close. I think in France they didn't use the gray center. The gray center started like in Russia. I definitely don't like the Poland here with the white crosses. It just looks wrong on so many levels. Let's take a look at this. No, it's got this black center. All right, so this is what we're going to do. I'm gonna paint my own decals here. Okay, real easy to do. Real easy to do. Let's see if I can zoom in one. Is that more zoomed in or the other one? That's the back side. That's the front side. That's zoomed in a little bit more. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the white out here. And let's put on the super readers. And this is just craft paint. The craft paint works just fine. I mean, this is like less than $1.50 for this huge thing. And it's easy to find unless there's a pandemic going on. Because when that was going on, I couldn't find any craft paint because everybody was doing crafty stuff, even though they weren't crafty people. Like, oh, we gotta stay home in masks? All right, I'm gonna go and steal all the freaking paint and use it. And none of them damn people didn't use it at all. It's like, hold on, we got first dibs. Us that really paint all the time should get first dibs on paint and stuff. So a lot of the craft supplies were like cleaned out for a while. So we're gonna take a brush that we have some confidence in. But not one that's too small. We're going to use this one for the detailing one, this little liner. All right, so what we're going to do is, the whole objective is we want to make a cross that is somewhat even, that we're going to come in and fill the black in afterwards. Okay, so we don't have to get exactly the correct shape. We have to get the shape correctly. We don't necessarily have to have it completely done. I don't know. It's easier to just show you than explain. All right, so one of these is going to be on door, and it's going to be this one. So we're just going to drop a vertical line here. Make sure the consistency is about right. We don't want it to be too watering. We don't want it to be too thick. If it's too thick, it'll end up catching on things. So we're just going to do a vertical and then a horizontal. And the whole objective, we're going to paint black inside of that. And then we've got the black. Then we'll come in with like pure white and do the little on the others. And it'll be close enough that it'll fool your eye and looking like it looks perfect. Okay? And then this one, we got a damn toolbox in the way there. The trick with hand painting everything is don't try to do it like all in one shot. You got to pace yourself. It's like you're writing a paper. You need to do a rough draft. No, I'm at work again on break, but I want to watch. Why are you working at 9 o'clock at night? I'm gonna go to the same thing. We're gonna go to the other one. The other one's gonna have it's gonna have it on the door. I was on there. Yes, I was on here this morning. Or are you probably sleeping? All right, man. You can catch me on the next one. You want to be watching me do this when you're hobbying, anyways. You don't want to be at work. I would think. If you want to draw something that's neat, paint something that's neat, definitely pull the brush towards you. Okay, so this is all we have. We just have a little white cross. It's not the final, what it's going to look like, but we want to make sure that that's my sketch of where it's going to be. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take the really fine one and get some black on here. And this is where we're going to paint the center. And we just want to focus on the black being straight. We're going to clean it up with the next step. And all this is pretty thin down, so it's not like, oh man, I'm laying this on really thick, and if I cover it with something else, it's going to look all goopy and stuff. Gloopy. No, goopy. Okay, something like that. And we kind of want these crosses to be a little on the narrow side. Use narrower crosses in France. All right, now we're going to go back to the first one. And we're going to grab some of this white. And then just do it one stroke at a time. So you got a cross like this, you only want to do one side and then come in and do the other one. Then come over here and do this one, then come over here and do that one. Not try to do the L. It's a lot harder to get it 90 degrees like when you do that. As we just did those lines like that. You don't want it too wet or it starts getting out of hand. Then you got to clean it up again from the other direction. Hold on. Really should be doing this without my contacts in. Let's try doing the drunk headwear here and see if that's helpful. Man, it is helpful, but man, it's like I move anything at all. It's like, whew, how many gallons of whiskey have I had? That's what it feels like. Wow, I'm gonna get a headache with this thing. Yeah, I'm gonna need a lot more cleanup with this. I should have taken out my contacts. All right, now I can do things like, I can just tell that the black is a little longer here than it needs to be. So I'm gonna come in here with this Panzer gray and clean up that edge. It's not bad. Actually, I'm gonna actually finish this one before we go and do the other one. So I gotta put this thing up to be able to put glasses on. No, this whole vision thing's a pain in the freaking ass. It does help you focus on what you're doing by having to wear something like that, but it's still a pain in the ass. So we're going to do a Google. I don't like searching for things on my computer. So I can end up picking something up. But I'm going to do German girl names 1940s. Okay, not 1840s, 1940s. And we're going to name both of these. Juta. Like, ooh. Heidi. I think I have a Heidi already. Eva. We can name one Eva. That's easy. All right, let's open up another window. We can remove the instruction one. We can remove those. We're going to open up another window, and this window is going to be called German style fonts. Okay, and we're going to go to images. Because they need to be painted in German. They don't have to be painted, but it makes sense that they would be painted in a Germanic style. Which one of these was the one I was using? German, it might have been this German Gothic one. Okay, so what do we call one of them? One of them is going to be Eva. I want short names. These are tiny little vehicles. So one's going to be Eva. And the other one is going to be Irma might not be bad. What else do we have that's short? Well, they're both E's, so how about, I guess this is in popularity. Number one was Karin's, Kirin. Elka. Let's do a traditional. Do I have it? I can't remember if I have a Helga or not. One of my armored cars named that. Inga. That's what it was. Inga. Inga and Eva. Okay. So now we're going to go back to our German style fonts. This one's going to be Eva. And what's the E look like? Other than really, really weird and big. And let's see if I can pull this off with this. There's just too like drunkenness. I think I might be able to do it. So I'm going to, let's get the best brush I have. Get some white here, a little bit of black. We want to do like a light gray first, and then we'll clean it up using pure white. That way it gives it a little bit of shadowing too. All right, what are we doing? We're doing Eva. What's that E look like? Okay, what's the V? The V's like that, right? And the A's like that. Got it. Okay. And it's going to be big letter for the big capital letter, and the other two are small. So we're going to put it in the middle of. Well, you know what? We're going to put it over the symbol here. Over the symbol, that makes sense. The important thing is to get all the verticals in the right place so they're spaced properly. V is straight on that side, and it has kind of like a little notch. See if we can pull this off. Man, this vision is this is really hard to do with these things on. I gotta take my contacts out. I'll be right back. This is just moving too much. It's like, man, I feel like I'm intoxicated. Be right back. Okay. Whew. Yeah, much better. Like, that's like painting intoxicated. It's fine to look through it, but man, like to do work and stuff, like you're not used to the shakiness of that. This is just my natural nearsightedness. You know, this is getting a little bit of a. We've used this brush a lot. It's getting a little bit of a thing on it. Let's use a new brush for this. Because this is like literally the most precise thing I do. Here we go. Look at this beautiful thing. It's the same brush, same brand. Everybody wants to know what size it is. It doesn't really matter what size it is. This happens to be actually a 1. So not that small a brush. The important thing is that it's a oh, I need to be on I need to be on Wi-Fi. If I lose you guys here, I'll be right back. It needs to be a liner. You get so much better control out of a liner. I don't like rounds at all. And these are just from Hobby Lobby. Royal Langnickel, whatever the hell a Royal Langnickel it is. There we go. Okay, we have a little Eva there. All right, now we'll come in with the real white, with the bright white. And really sharpen that. What's the ends of that E look like? Okay. This is the kind of stuff I really enjoy doing. I enjoy doing this more than anything else. I don't enjoy doing the dry brushing. I certainly don't enjoy doing the priming. I feel like anybody can do that. Like this is like, only a sadist would do something like this. You know, lots of people like scared of, I like doing stuff, the thing people are scared of. Like, man, why would you do that? I said, because it's fun and I'm pretty successful with it. Looks a bit like Iwa. I have to clean up that V a little bit. Yeah, the tip of this one is it's like picking up like a tiny little piece of dust. And what that does is it just misshapens the point. Man, it's drying fast. Well, we're getting helping. Now let's sharpen this a little bit more, and then we'll come in here with the Panzer Gray and clean this up. There we go. Because you need to have some kind of identifying markings on these vehicles. Because when the crew member's card comes up or where their chip comes up, it's going to be, driver of EVA, KFZ 13 EVA. And in this, it wasn't until really late in the war that German armored cars got numbers. You rarely see numbers before, like a Puma. You almost see a Puma almost always has a number on it. But before that, armored cars, before that, 222s, 231s, you'd be hard pressed to find one that has a number. All right. Now, that looks, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, let's see if I can get the lighting in the right direction to show you. And I really do like doing this. Oh, it's freaking backwards. Dadgummit. I don't know how to fix that. Sorry. Okay, so that's its identifying markings on it. Now, we're going to get some of this white here. Mix it with a little bit of blacks. I like it having a little bit of a gray in the background, so it gives you a little bit to makes it pop a little bit. Okay, there's a license plate back here. And there's a front one on the front. And then we'll do the same thing on this other one, since we're thinking about it. And a couple of these had like little reconnaissance type markings. So I'm going to put those on here as well, just to give them some kind of a personality. I'm going to do the same thing on both of them in that regards. Let's get a little bit of gray. And all we're going to do is we're going to paint a little box here. Okay, I believe this slash goes like this, but I want to make sure. We don't want to get that wrong. That would be annoying. Yep. Yep, that's correct. It's going to go from this corner to that corner. I think I grabbed the other one. Yep. And then we'll come in here with the pure white. And the same thing on this one. And we'll get in here with the pure white. I don't care if the water I'm using is just slightly dingy. It doesn't matter. There we go. Okay, let's put more of use a bigger brush. We don't want to put our finger over anything we painted or just end up undoing the stuff that I did. And the same thing on the front. Yeah, it's going to have weathering over it. Not too heavy, but it is going to have some weathering. And black lining for that matter. Yeah, black lining, that's important. No, I didn't realize I still had to do that. I do have to do that. I choose to do that. Which one of these isn't as good as the other one? That's the new one, so this is the one from before. I'm going to remove this from here. It's easier to deal with. And we should have a little spot over here we can do this. I don't mind if some of this evaporates. It just basically means that this Nuln oil is a little actually denser, thicker. And definitely need this for the gratings here on the side. Cute little vehicle. Now let's see what the license plate looks like on the back. Oh, that's the wrong thing to be wearing. Yeah, it does have the WH in front of it. Okay. On top of it, sorry. Okay, so we're going to get the one that is the finest of the brushes. And we're going to paint a little WH at the top, and then just some chicken scratching underneath it. You can make out the WH, and that's all we're going to be able to make out. Okay. Now for the cover of that tire, because that is a tire that's there. I'm going to go to a bigger brush. Do something like khaki. Okay, but we're not going to leave it like that. We're going to mix black into it. Okay, and then once you got it where you think is how you want it, we're going to paint that entire tire cover in that color. Matter of fact, I wish it was a little darker as the starting color. We're going to lighten it up. The Maroon Cardinal is here. We're doing some Panzer Gray stuff. Oh, it's a little too zoomed in, isn't it? We got some Czech 38s down here, and right now we're finishing Eva, which is a KFZ 13. I'm going to use a little bit of the is it here? Of the US Field Drab. Very little. Get almost all of it off. Yeah, it's almost like I took too much off. Okay, and then we're going to take a little bit of the Iraqi sand. And that way we have some weathering, some fading of the paint, all kinds of different stuff going on. And I like to just hit the edge here with this light color as well to make some of these things stand out. Because these vehicles have some really cool angles. Panzer Grey often was an early war fellow and only ended up doing it twice. Well, I like the Panzer Grey better. The problem is there's a lot of campaigns that happen in Panzer Grey that just don't interest me. Pretty much the only campaign in Panzer Grey that interests me is Barbarossa. I'm not interested in France. I'm not interested in anything before France. It's not that I like the late war stuff. I actually like the mid-war stuff the most, but the war happened in Russia. That's where, so that's where it's at for me, or that's where it's been for me in the past. I think this might be too big of a step. Let's see here. I think it's too big of a step here. Oh, yeah. But not too terribly bad. So we want to give the impression that whatever is in here is round, is roundish. And then we're going to lighten this up a little bit more. I mean, this is a pretty boring looking vehicle. Not much going on it. Now let's take this core color, add a little bit of white to it. Thin it down. Ooh, bit much. Ooh, really a bit much. We got something that looks like that. Got some Pegasus 38Ts lying around. I could probably repurpose them with a 2 centimeter gun turret just make them with munition carriers. What was the other found out today? The munition carriers actually weren't really common. What I did was I ended up having a bunch of these 38Ts, and a lot of the barrels were broken on the turrets that they came with. And a lot of the barrels came with the turret opened. And in a perfect world, if I'm going to add another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I wouldn't want more than 2 of the vehicles with an open turret. And I've got 3, I think. So, especially with a vehicle that, if it's showing a guy there, then he's not firing the gun. You know, because the commander, oh, wrong one. The commander is the gunner in a 2-man turret, in a German 2-man turret. There's exceptions to that rule in different nations, but no, I'm actually going to take, where's the, let's get this small dry brush, get all the moisture off this thing. Let's get here with a, we don't need very much of this stuff. It's funny, the front of this vehicle looks just like that Goofy cartoon that I was talking about in the war years, where, you know, I think it's called Goofy in the Navy or whatever, and he ends up firing himself out of a torpedo and sinking all the Japanese ships, one after the other. And all the Japanese ships have a face on them, and the face looks kind of like this. Like, ho ho ho! You know? All right, now you got a couple seats to paint out of wood. Then again, the turrets are in completely fine condition, so I might just leave them be if anybody wants them at some point. Didn't hold back their jokes back then, that's for sure. That's right. Well, that's what you need to do to win a war, man. You got to make fun of people. You start treating them like equals, and then you get your, you know. Yeah. Well, one thing that we need to do before this, we need to do the drippings. Okay, I'm going to use a new one for drippings. Oh, we don't want that to spill out. That's a mess. That's a mess to clean up. And I may put a figure in here. I may put a figure in there just because it's open top. You'd be able to see if somebody was on that MG. Well, where there's a hinge, there's going to be rust. And there's hinges right here. Well, the one thing you want to do, one thing you can do if you want to keep the Czech 38s and you want to use them as Czech 38s, there's one Panzer division that didn't get raised until really early 1942. It's the 22nd Panzer Division. It served in the south part of Russia. It didn't get stuck in the Ukrainian pocket or anything. I mean, it didn't get stuck in the Stalingrad pocket or anything, but it did serve in Army Group South in 1942, and it was completely equipped with Czech 38s when they were already not in style. Because they ended up, the Panzer divisions that went into Russia that had the Czech 38s was the 7th, the 8th, the 6th had Czech 35s, or at least through 1941. I don't think any of them survived the winter. The Czech 38s were in the 7th, the 8th, the 12th, the 19th, and the 20th. I believe I got that right. I have it written down somewhere. And the 22nd was, 21st obviously went to North Africa. The 22nd was created in either really late 1941 or really late 42. It didn't see any action in 1941. It saw action in 1942 during Case Blau, the drive to the Caucasus. And they were painted not in Panzer gray. They were painted in not Dunkelgelb either. They were painted in a Dunkelgelbish type color. It almost looks the same as Dunkelgelb, but there's a lot of tanks that they experimented in the South with their camouflage schemes that were Panzer gray, and they did like an overspray of like yellow. That's not Dunkelgelb. That's I forget what it's called, but it might be called Gelb Brown or something like that. But it looks the same. It looks similar-ish. So you're looking at these Czech 38s that are all in yellow, which is really weird. It looks kind of, strange to be that way. I used to buy lots of kits in no particular order, and I believe the STKF Z13 was one of those on the list. Yeah, I've never had one before. I've never had one before. Not because it was a wimpy vehicle. That has nothing to do with it. It's just of a time period that, I'm certainly not going to do Poland. I'm not doing German vehicles with white crosses. That just looks weird. And France, France didn't last long enough for me to get really interested. That's why Barbarossa, man, you want to do Barbarossa, that's the one that lasted the longest than anything else. It's a decent little print. It really is. That's what this thing looks like. Yeah, I wish I could show you a picture of it. It'll be on my Facebook page and afterwards. So we got a couple seats here. We're going to assume that they had a wooden cover. That's how we're going to paint them. If we need to change it later, we'll change it later. Not field drab, this one. You've seen Polish war games where they utilize armored trains. Sounds cool, but a little bit limited. No kidding. Yeah. There's a couple scenarios that I have in books that involve like train tracks, you know, but no trains. The train's not going through here at this time. And the Soviet trains look just as good as the German ones, because the Soviet trains had this big ass red star in the front of them. It looks pretty good. Oh, that's the really good one. Nope. Got to save some of these for doing the miracle work. You don't wear out something on something it's not worthy. It's the only thing I hate about craft paint is these damn lids. You always invariably end up getting paint on yourself, which, you know, could track onto something else. Okay, I think this is where we're going to stop for the night because it's after 10 o'clock. The other one, this will be, what did we say the other one was called? Inga. This is going to be Inga and this is going to be Eva. So we'll end up with a little photo session of this thing. So, oh, there's one place I would like to have a black line on. Make it stand out. And that is the dividing line between the hood and the superstructure. Okay, folks. Well, that's it for tonight. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning. You don't have a problem with France, but having to paint and get early war Panzers plus French ones feels like a distraction from the other goals. Yeah, I don't like German tanks that don't have a turret overhang. They look weird. Panzer twos are okay. Panzer ones always look weird. Panzer threes without turret overhang just look like something's wrong. Something's wrong with this. Czech 38s don't bother me at all. So. All right, folks, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.